Oh, Shalom, Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Peace and blessings to the world. Peace and blessings. It's your host with the most, King Hebrew. Now, we're going to go over real quick the book of Haggai, chapter 2 and verse 23, the future prophecy of Zerubbabel and Christ. Going into my notes, a lot of people think that this prophecy happened. Let me just pull up. Let me pull this up real quick. Well, it's the book of Haggai, chapter 2 and verse 21. Tell Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah. Tell Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, that I am about to shake the heavens and the earth. I will overthrow royal thrones and destroy the power of foreign kingdoms. I will overturn their chariots and riders. The horses will fall and their riders will kill each other. But when this happens, says the Lord of heaven's armies, I will honor you, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, my servant. I will make you like a signet ring on my finger, says the Lord. For I have chosen you, I, the Lord of heaven's armies, have spoken. Now this hasn't happened yet, because verse 22, this goes with Zephaniah, the first chapter, which also didn't happen. Let's get Zephaniah 1 and 18. Well, this whole chapter, man. Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 3. I will sweep away people and animals alike. I will sweep away the birds of the sky and the fish in the sea. I will reduce the wicked to heaps of rubble, and I will wipe humanity from the face of the earth, says the Lord. Now, again, this hasn't happened yet. Now, we're going to go into Christ being from the same lineage as Zerubbabel, which is they're both from Judah. Now, Haggai. So Haggai 2 and 21 tells Zerubbabel. Now, let's pull up the PDF. Haggai chapter 2, verse 23, the future prophecy of Zerubbabel and Christ. Number 1, the prophecy is future focused. Haggai chapter 2, verse 21 through 23 describes the overthrow of kingdoms, armies, and world powers, events that did not occur in Zerubbabel's lifetime. This confirms the prophecy points beyond his historical era. Verse 2, Zerubbabel as the signet. God calls Zerubbabel his signet, symbolizing chosen authority and royal power. The ultimate signet is Christ, to whom all authority in heaven and earth is given. Matthew 28 and 18. Verse number 3, dual prophecy, type and fulfillment. Zerubbabel represents a prophetic type of Christ. Though a historical governor, his role foreshadows the future messianic king who will rebuild God's spiritual temple and rule over all nations. Verse number 4, genealogy connection. Christ descends directly from Zerubbabel. Matthew chapter 1, verse 12, making the prophecy extend to his greater descendant who fulfills it fully. Final summary: Haggai chapter 2, verse 23 speaks to Zerubbabel in the immediate context, which prophetically points to Christ as its ultimate fulfillment. Zerubbabel is the shadow, Christ is the substance. Now I gotta go back. The ultimate. Matthew 28 and 18. Matthew chapter 28, verse 18. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. So going back. I gotta run it back. Okay. So this is the book of Haggai, chapter 2 and verse 23, the future prophecy of Zerubbabel and Christ. Number 1, the prophecy is future focus. Haggai chapter 2, verse 21, verse 23 describes the overthrow of kingdoms, armies, and world powers, events that did not occur in Zerubbabel's lifetime. This confirms the prophecy points beyond his historical era. Zerubbabel as the signet. God calls Zerubbabel his signet, symbolizing chosen authority and royal power. The ultimate signet is Christ, to whom all authority in heaven and earth is given. That's Matthew 28 and verse 18. Now, number 3, dual prophecy. Now, I'm going to stay on number 3 before I go on. Number 3, dual prophecy, type and fulfillment. Zerubbabel represents a prophetic type of Christ. Though a historical governor, his role foreshadows the future messianic king who will rebuild God's spiritual temple and rule over all nations. Now, this is Matthew chapter 1 and verse 12 through 13. Right? It's Jeconias, Salathiel, and Zerubbabel, right? In Matthew, the first chapter, Zerubbabel is a direct descendant of Christ. Now, in Ezekiel, let's go up a little bit. Let's get Hosea 3 and 5. Because Christ said also that a greater Solomon is here. So Christ was referring to himself as Solomon, but he's a greater Solomon. Why? Because Solomon is a descendant of Christ. And they also said, who do you think, Christ said, who do you think I am? And everybody said, you are the son of David. Then he said, how can I be the son of David if in the book of Psalms he referred to me as his Lord? And we're going to touch on that also. But Hosea 3 and 5. Hosea chapter 3, verse 5. But afterward, the people will return and devote themselves to the Lord their God and to David's descendant, their king. In the last days, they will tremble in awe of the Lord and his goodness. Now, I want to get that's in the NLT. Let's get this real quick. It's supposed to say David. Oh, it did say, okay. All right, we'll go back. Hosea chapter 3, verse 5. But afterward, the people will return and devote themselves to the Lord their God and to David's descendant, their king. This is referring to Christ, right? Christ is a descendant of King David. Now let's get Ezekiel 37. Ezekiel 37 and 24. Ezekiel 37, verse 24. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Now, who was this? It says, and David. Well, David passed already. Now we're in Ezekiel. Now, it said, David, my servant, shall be king over them. Is it talking about David or Christ? It's talking about Christ. Now, let me get real quick. Strong's. Now let's see what Christ said. So that was Ezekiel 37, verse 24. Now let's get, I believe it's in Matthew. Matthew 22, verse 42. Now this heavy right here. This is heavy. And this goes into Haggai chapter 2, verse 23. That's Zerubbabel. Not only is that a future prophecy that hasn't happened, but it's dual prophecy. Well, not dual prophecy. All that is referring to Christ. Now, Matthew 22, verse 42, saying, what ye think of Christ? Whose son is he? Let me get this in the NLT real quick. What's that? Matthew 22, verse 42. What do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he? They replied, he is the son of David. Verse 43. Jesus responded, why does David, speaking under the inspiration of the Spirit, call the Messiah my Lord? For David saith, the Lord said to my Lord, sit in the place of honor at my right hand until I humble your enemies beneath your feet. Verse 25. Verse 45. Since David called the Messiah my Lord, how can the Messiah be his son? Verse 46. No one could answer him. And after that, no one dared to ask him any more questions. Now, I want to say Colossians 1 and 21. Was that Colossians 1 and 15? Colossians 1 and 15. Christ is the invisible image of the invisible God. No, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. For through him, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. He existed before anything else. That's why in Matthew 22, David referred to Christ as his Lord in the book of Psalms, because before David, Christ existed, right? Colossians 1 and 17, he existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. So going back to Haggai, chapter 2, right? Number 3, Zerubbabel represents a prophetic type of Christ. Though a historical governor, his role foreshadows the future messianic king who will rebuild God's spiritual temple and rule over all nations. Christ descends directly from Zerubbabel, or Christ created Zerubbabel. So Zerubbabel is a descendant of Christ. That's Matthew 1 and 12, making the prophecy extend to his greater descendant who fulfills it fully. Haggai chapter 2, Haggai 2 and 23 speaks to Zerubbabel in the immediate context, but prophetically points to Christ as its ultimate fulfillment. Zerubbabel is the shadow, Christ is the substance. Now uh, let's get Matthew 1 and 12. We'll get the genealogy. Matthew 1 and 12. Right, you go to verse 1. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. This is a record of the ancestors of Jesus the Messiah, a descendant of David and of Abraham. You see Zerubbabel, he's in that genealogy at verse 12. Now, what's the other one? That's why Christ said, I'm a greater Solomon. Is in that genealogy. Um, and also Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, right? It said Elijah will come back. Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, it says, I will send you Elijah the prophet. Matthew chapter 11, verse 14, this is Elias, right? Elijah, which was for to come. John the Baptist was Elijah. Christ confirmed that in Matthew 11. I believe that's verse 16. Everybody knew that Elijah and John the Baptist were the same people. Matthew 42, the queen of the south shall rise up in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here. So Christ said he's Solomon, but he's greater. He's a greater Solomon. So he took on that. And so Christ could be Solomon. Christ could be Zerubbabel. Christ could be Melchizedek, right? That's also his title, right? But he has, everybody knows, right? He's Jesus Christ. Now, am I missing any points? Zion. Psalms 14 and 7. Psalms 14 and 7. Oh, that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. When the Lord bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. Now, when it says Jacob, it's talking about the 12 tribes. 2 Kings 17 and 34. Second Kings 17 and 34. Unto this day they do after the former manners, they fear not the Lord, neither do they after their statutes, which the Lord commanded of Jacob, whom he made Israel, whom he named Israel. Verse 35, with whom the Lord had made a covenant, right? So that's also in Leviticus 25. So when it says in Psalms, what's that? Psalms, I just read what, 14? Psalms chapter 14, verse 7. So it said the salvation of Israel, right? The captivity of his people Jacob. But in Second Kings chapter 17, verse 34, it said the children of Jacob, right? The 12 tribes, right? Revelation 7, the 12 tribes. So in closing,